We turn now to a murder mystery after the discovery of not one but two bodies found when the water level in Lake Mead dropped dramatically. And it immediately raised suspicions for anyone who knows anything about the mafia or just watched The Godfather.
Two sets of human remains were discovered in Lake Mead. They think it screams mob activity.
Right now, investigators trying to figure out whose remain paddleboaters found at Lake Mead. Police telling us there's no evidence of foul play here, but it begs the question, how many more bodies will be found now that the lake is at record low levels?
Well, all of this has been the talk of legal circles and mob circles, and we're joined now by Oscar Goodman, the former mayor of Las Vegas, who for years represented an assortment of organized crime figures. Mr. Goodman, thank you for being here. I bet the phone's been ringing off the hook with these discoveries.
You know, I can't even leave my home without being asked who did it and who was it. If I knew, I wouldn't tell you.
Any hints, suggestions?
Well, I don't think it was necessarily a mob hit. I wish that we had the caliber of bullet that was involved. The 22 was the bullet of choice back in those days of alleged mobsters. And I'd like to see whether it was a 22 and also find out the entry that the bullet made. That would be important because the technique that they used back in those days was to shoot somebody in the back of the head. The other thing, of course, it would be nice to have the DNA. I'm sure they're going to get to that point and may be able to identify who the person is through that process. But right now, we're just speculating and enjoying the fact that it took place in Las Vegas. It involved what would appear to be a mob hit, although it was not the type of mob activity that took place back then. There was sort of an unwritten rule that if somebody were killed by the mob, they would be killed in California or in Arizona because they didn't want to bring the attention of the Justice Department into Las Vegas, since Bobby Kennedy was very interested in making sure that Las Vegas was wiped from the face of the earth.
Among your clients was Anthony the Ant Spilatro, who apparently was alleged to have killed between 22 and 27 people. Does this have his trademark?
No. You know, it's interesting. That's what the allegation was. I represented Tony for many, many years. And the FBI always used to say, how can you represent a guy who killed 27 people? I said, how can you even say that to me when he never spent a day in jail? The only time he spent in jail was waiting for me to get through with the case so I could get him out on bail, but never convicted of anything. So, you know, he was portrayed by Joe Pesci in the movie Casino, of which I was one of the stars, by the way.
But I knew how to keep the bosses happy. Whenever they gave me little jobs to do, you know, to send a message, I would carry things out to a T.
It doesn't smell even like what they alleged that Spilatro was involved in. It's a big desert out there, and you went to a lot of trouble to put somebody in a barrel and then take them out into the lake and throw them into the water. That's a lot of trouble. All you had to do is go someplace which was not too far from the urban area here, have a big shovel, dig a big hole and throw a body in it. And that would accomplish the same thing, probably more effectively than how it turned out.
Could it be Jimmy Hoffa?
I doubt that, to be quite frank with you. The reason I say that, the only news that I got of any substance was that the clothing that the decedent was wearing was from Kmart. And if Jimmy Hoffa was buying his clothes from Kmart, I'm a monkey's uncle.
So this has focused attention again on your beloved city and the organized crime background. That's just part of history now, isn't it?
It is. There's no mob here now. A lot
no mob at all?
No,
really?
There really isn't. Well, sometimes I think some of these holier than thou fellas who run the casinos here do things that the mob wouldn't even think of doing. But as far as the mob as fictionalized in the movies like Casino or Goodfellas, movies of that nature, they don't exist anymore. The concept of omerta, the silence of quote mafia end quote is no longer it's no longer followed in any of these cases. They can't wait to get in line and make the best deal by being the first one who, in effect, squeals on it.
Is Las Vegas a better place now without the mob, or is there something about the romanticized mystique of those gangsters that's missing?
I like the old days better for a lot of reasons. In the old days, a man's a handshake was his bond, and nothing had to be in writing. Now everything is put down in contractual form, and a man's word isn't good anymore, and that's a shame. They were characters. We don't have the characters anymore. If a fella had a hunchback, for instance, they weren't shy about calling him the camel or Hunchy. If he was left-handed, like the character portrayed by De Niro in the movie Casino, they referred to him as Lefty. Tony, they called him the Ant. Fella up in Massachusetts that I represented, Vinny, the Animal, they called him, but not to his face, which is important to note.
So we'll finally find out from DNA whose bodies have been found in the lake. Are you eager to find out?
I really, as a matter of interest, it's an interesting situation. You don't ordinarily find bodies in a lake, but I'm sure they never expected when the body was placed in the lake that it would be discovered. But the lake has gone down so far that nobody could have anticipated that. Just as a matter of interest, am I going to say hooray? No. This is a murder case. It obviously wasn't suicide. It's a murder case, so the person who was killed probably had people who loved him, or you would hope so. Anyway, everybody needs a little love, and whoever killed him probably is no longer with us. It's been so long ago.
All right. Oscar Goodman, former mayor of Las Vegas, esteemed and widely recognized lawyer of some real characters. Thank you so much for being with us here.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Oscar Goodman. Up next, this week's winners and losers in the media as chosen by the editors of Mediaite. You're watching Brian Ross Investigates on the Law&Crime Trial Network. Time now for this week's winners and losers in the media as chosen by the editors of Mediaite. And we're joined by Aidan McLaughlin, who is the editor-in-chief of Mediaite, which, like the Law&Crime Trial Network, is part of the Dan Abrams Media Group. And Aidan, you've chosen as your winner this week Chris Wallace, who left Fox for CNN Plus, only to see CNN Plus get canceled. Well, now his boss at CNN, Chris Licht, has announced they found a place for him.
A big part of the CNN brand is respectful, authentic, and impactful interviews, and one of the best interviewers in the business is Chris Wallace. We are excited to announce that Who's Talking to Chris Wallace will return to production this fall with episodes on HBO Max and on our CNN linear channel.
So a new job for Chris Wallace, who apparently is getting paid $9 million a year by CNN.
That's right. So now this winner, I should note, has a lot of caveats. Chris Wallace joined CNN Plus from Fox News, where he spent 20 years as the anchor of Fox News Sunday. He was supposed to be sort of the flagship journalist of the new streaming platform. As we both know, CNN Plus shuttered after just a couple weeks on the air. Now Chris Wallace has found a home. His show, Who's Talking to Chris Wallace, is going to be aired on HBO Max, which is now under the same umbrella as CNN as part of Warner Bros. Discovery, this new conglomerate. It's also going to be airing on Sunday nights on CNN. So while a lot of the journalists that went over to CNN Plus were sort of up in the air and are not sure about their future, Chris Wallace can be sure that he has a place at CNN. The biggest win here, and I think why we ended up choosing Chris Wallace as our winner this week, is one number that I want to give you here, Brian. That's 76.8 million. And that is the number of subscribers that HBO Max has, where Who's Talking to Chris Wallace is going to be airing. That blows any other network streaming platform out of the water, and that's really why he's a winner today.
So he made the right move, you think, even with all this happened?
I think when he said why he left Fox News, there were reasons beyond just the opportunity at CNN Plus. He thought that Fox News had gotten far too extreme and pro-Trump, for his taste. So I think he's certainly happy to have left Fox News and to have gone to this new opportunity. The fact that he's going to be on CNN, he's going to be an anchor for CNN as well, no doubt doing the big news nights for the network, and especially with that salary, which you noted earlier, I'm sure he's pretty happy with the situation right now.
All right, and for the loser this week, you've chosen someone from Fox News, Tucker Carlson, who has been a proponent of what's called the Great Replacement Theory, a baseless conspiracy theory.
You've heard a lot about the Great Replacement Theory recently. It's everywhere in the last 2 days, and we're still not sure exactly what it is. Here's what we do know for a fact. There is a strong political component to the Democratic Party's immigration policy. We're not guessing this. We know this, and we know it because they have said so.
Well, this took on resonance given that replacement theory was cited by the shooter in Buffalo last weekend.
Right, and there you have Tucker Carlson saying he doesn't actually know what Great Replacement Theory is, which is nonsense because Tucker Carlson has spent the last couple of years promoting Great Replacement Theory on his show, which is a sort of white nationalist theory that holds that elites are importing immigrants from South America in order to gain electoral advantage for Democrats and effectively replace the white race in America, thereby the replacement. It's a theory that was mostly confined to the fever swamps of 4chan and other white nationalist, white supremacist websites for years until Tucker Carlson revived it. He got a huge amount of criticism for doing so, and it has actually inspired a series of mass shootings, including the El Paso shooting, where the gunman wanted to target Hispanic people, and now recently the Buffalo shooting where the alleged shooter is believed to have targeted people of color. So, you know, at the end of the day, Tucker Carlson makes a lot of excuses for why this theory that he's promoting is not inspiring these shootings. But I think, you know, Occam's razor, a series of mass shootings have happened that are inspired by this white nationalist theory that is being promoted by the most watched host on Fox News and all of cable news. I think we can conclude that there's a problem there.
And Aidan, as you know, the demographics of America are changing. What's different here is this theory that there's some conspiracy by Democrats to do it so they get more voters.
Right. So the difference here is that obviously we know that immigration and declining birth rates among white population in the United States changes the racial demographics of the United States and the rest of the world. The theory here, and the reason why it's espoused by so many white nationalists, is that there's this cabal of elites that are conspiring to import these voters to change the racial makeup of the United States. Usually the Jews are blamed for this. So that's what makes it a white nationalist theory, and that's why when Tucker Carlson espouses it, it creates such an outrage.
And the fact that he continues to do that, the Murdochs don't seem to mind.
No, and you know, Chuck Schumer, the New York senator, sent a letter to Rupert Murdoch and the leadership at Fox News, basically begging them to put a stop to Tucker Carlson promoting this theory on his show. It's unclear that that's going to be successful at all.
Aidan McLaughlin, thank you so much for joining, and thanks all of you for joining us. We'll see you back here again next week on the Law and Crime Trial Network.